Hey everybody, Danielle Egnew here. Welcome to inPsight Radio, where you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. Yay! I am so excited to have in the studio today not only a very, very dear friend of mine, but a fabulous tonal healer. She is incredible. I have worked with her on many different projects. We work together all the time. She's one of my besties. And so I have the pleasure of having the opportunity to introduce to everybody today tonal healer Marcia Reichert. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Danielle. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm just fine. Thanks for asking.
Good.
Now that I got everything up and running, I feel so much better now. That was quite something. Marcia, I am so happy to have you. And let me tell everybody who's listening why I'm happy to have you. Because Marcia travels all over the United States using her voice in vocal toning, really, to actually create harmonic fields and get inside of people's auric fields, chakral fields, spiritual fields, to be able to get in there and help people release pains of past lives, present lives, pain in the body. We're talking sound that heals, right?
Yes, it's wonderful. I feel so blessed that I have this ability, this talent. And my voice has just gotten better as I use it more. So,
well, that's a channeling thing,
wonderful.
Right?
Yes, it is a channeling thing.
Yeah, and the more you channel and the more you allow that incredible tone to come through, pretty soon it's just like, oh my God, this is fabulous.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm super excited to have her back up here in little old Big Sky, Montucky, up in Montana, is that Marcia, who is from Montana, has been down south, as a matter of fact, and she travels. She's literally this traveling healing minstrel, and she travels all over the place. So I'm going to let you talk a little about your travels here, Marcia, because where did you recently come from?
Well, the most recent fair I did was Nashville, Tennessee, and it was absolutely wonderful. Everything that I did was well received there, of course, because everybody is pretty into music there, of course.
Funny that, Nashville, right?
I know, right? So the whole fair that I did had all kinds of vibrational healers, and it was kind of hard to hear in there, but I'm able to kind of create a bubble between me and my client so that they are experiencing everything that I have anyway, no matter what's going on the outside.
Which is absolutely magnificent. And you've also been down in Florida.
Yes, I have. I'm currently living in Melrose, Florida. That's my address. I'm not there very often.
Yeah, weird that, right? You aren't there very often.
But I have been there more than here lately.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of things in Sarasota, Florida. And Sarasota and Bradenton both are very high vibrational, and lots of a very different mix of people down there. It's wonderful.
Well, yes. Especially compared to Montana, up here we have white people, we have a few African American people, and we have a few people who are of obviously Latin descent. And then we have the Native American people, which is a majority of our populations up here, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, it's wonderful up here too. I always thought that we were so conservative up here, and that people were afraid to come see different kinds of healers because of the stigma of the psychic thing and religion and things blocking that. But I've noticed that we are fairly open here, actually, that there are other places in the United States that aren't so open. So it's great to come back here even if it was for 2 weeks. And
you're talking about Montana. It's great to come. Well, and this is what I try to tell people all the time, is that Montana is people are like, well, it's this big red state, blah, blah, on the political map. I'm like, look, we've got to stop. First of all, stop with the identity politics. That branding and marketing has just got to stop. Secondly, if you're going to go with that old world labeling system, we're a huge purple state up here.
Yes.
And you know what we are? We're a great big sky state. And we really do let people be who they are up here, with the exception that, there's always going to be cranky people everywhere you go.
Oh, sure.
That's just part of it. So in your travels, now, when you leave here in Montana, where are you headed?
I'm headed back to Nashville. On the 31st of March, I will be in Centerville, just north of Nashville. and doing another psychic fair there. And yay, I can't wait to be there. And I was actually discovered for that fair at the last fair that I was at down there. So I was able to do my work for the gal that was running this fair that's coming up on the 31st. And
that's
she loved what I did, and I thought she was just a fabulous gal. So we connected, and that's what it's really been about, is connecting with people all over.
Well, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And so here's what I think is so cool. Now, I know Marcia from being up here in Billings, Montana, and Marcia owned Soul Sync Bodywork up here, and she had a number of practitioners that worked with her up here, and it was kind of like a Hogwarts up in. It was, people were doing Reiki,
wonderful,
psychic work and all kinds of stuff, which is not terribly typical in our neck of the woods.
Exactly.
And your work, which is really what I want to talk about, and I want to share with our listeners, because I am such a big proponent of body work, especially in these dimensional times right now that are really, really hard.
Right.
These ethers are eating people's lunch,
Yes.
and your work is through vibrational healing. And I would like you to tell our listeners what exactly you do. I mean, I kind of described it, yet I would like you to describe the process of how this happens so that people can understand what's going on in their chakral systems and how tones affect them.
Okay, so first, let me tell you that when I do a treatment on someone, I start out by talking to them maybe a little bit, but then it's all about the connection with the person. So I will usually lay my hands on them for just a little bit and start singing. And then the singing creates almost like a web between the two of us. And we are able to connect on a different level. And then we clear the aura, balance the chakra system. We move out things that they might have emotionally stuck in themselves, or they might be carrying around with their soul from past lives or generations. And then we talk about how to move on with their life and clear that out of their lives. Part of what the singing does itself, just like the vibrational bowls or a chime or anything else like that, it resonates with the cells in your body and helps your cells expand the walls and release the toxins so that everything gets carried out in the lymph system and the blood system, and we can just actually physically release it. So,
well, which is really important.
It is very important.
And
Yes.
people don't
Yes.
realize that they carry so many toxins from emotional experiences.
Exactly.
They don't. They don't. Now, have you noticed that when you're working on a person, does the energy of the land or the area or the city make a difference in your practitionership and where you're at in that time?
Yes, it does. And the great thing about what I do is I get to have my office wherever I'm at.
That's kind of how you roll. That's
It
how you
is
roll.
how I roll.
Yeah.
So I've got pictures of me doing treatments while I'm in the Black Hills over Frozen Lake, and the sun's shining down and it's beautiful outside. But
Right.
yes, it does make a difference where I'm at. When I'm in Tennessee, I bring in the energy of the beautiful rivers and waterfalls of Tennessee and the Appalachian Mountains, as well as the mounds that are out there.
Now, the mounds. Now, tell folks what the mounds are.
The mounds are ancient, what they think might be burial grounds for the Native Americans. And just like every other wonder of the world, I guess, they don't know exactly how they were made, just like they don't know, well, they have theories about how the pyramids were made, how the stone circles in Ireland and Scotland and England were made, but they don't know for sure how all of those things were made. So just like all of those, and they're all connected in a big web, energetic web around the earth. So we can bring energy from them in, we can bring energy from like close to us in Lovell, Montana, or just above Lovell, Montana in the mountains is a medicine wheel that we can bring that also connects on that energetic plane. So we can bring energy from that, from Oh, I'm getting tingles.
Yeah, you are. I'm just watching you, and I'm like, she's doing her thing. She's doing her thing. Oh, my God.
So as I
Crazy.
speak, all that energy is coming in, and I'm getting all these tingles from everywhere. So hopefully the listeners get a little bit of that, too.
I hope they do, too. I hope they do, too.
Yeah, so it goes all the way to like Montezuma and sacred places in South America and all over the world. But we get to bring all that energy in. But you had originally asked if it makes a difference where I am. And the healing works wherever I am, but it's different energies that I get to use and I get to bring in. And then the experience for me is that I get to take that somewhere else and I get to bring it back here to Billings, Montana, or I get to take it back. I get to go visit my brother in a few weeks on the East Coast in Maryland. And so I can take that energy from Montana and bring it back from him too.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's cool.
It's wonderful to be able to do that. Yeah.
So I talk a lot about energies that go through those geomagnetic ley lines in the earth. Mm-hmm. And when we're dealing with Florida, those energies in Florida, and you're in Sarasota and also in I'm blanking out.
Melrose,
mm-hmm. Thank you. Hello. So, I mean, we have a bunch of friends in Sarasota too. So I go right to Sarasota. But up in Melrose, you've got Florida itself has a bunch of, it's like a star pattern of ley lines, which go through the very tip of the peninsula. Right. And then those run up the East Coast, they run through the American South, they run through the Gulf, and then they get picked up over there through Texas. I mean, all of these ley lines are running all throughout the world. So actually, Florida's a pretty big hotspot.
It is. It's wonderful to work there. And that crystal bed underneath Sarasota is fabulous.
Now, explain to folks what you're talking about with the crystal bed under Sarasota.
Well, Sarasota's beach, Siesta Key Beach, is actually made out of, I think it's 97%, and somebody will correct me on that, I'm sure, if I'm wrong, but quartz crystal. So
it's white.
The beach is white.
Wow.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's different feeling than anything you'll ever feel. And that's because of a quartz crystal bed underneath there. And there are theories that Atlantis was off the coast of Florida, right around Sarasota.
And that's the same like the Bimini Road stuff. And as you get closer down through the Bahamas, mm-hmm. you find all these ancient civilizations, which had they weren't really sunken. It's just that the water levels rose.
Right.
And our water mm-hmm. levels in our oceans have vacillated, up to 100 feet on our coastlines, which is a lot. So if you were this cool coastal place and all of a sudden the water level raises, well, you're doomed. That's it.
100 feet in Florida is most of Florida.
That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, it's weird. It's crazy. So, okay, so I'm going to shift our topic just a little bit. Do you feel that there are different spiritual gifts that people can have that then accentuate their healing capacity? And if so, what gifts would those be and what healing capacities would those be?
Oh, my goodness. That was an awesome question. Yes, of course.
Y'all, I try not to dull people's minds on this show, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, I do believe that there are different spiritual gifts that people can have. I believe that one of the most powerful gifts that we can have as healers is, and it's blanking right now.
That's okay. You're feeling it. You're over there. Your hands are moving. You're in this energy field. You're conjuring it up.
Yes, because I'm so open, I forget what it's called. Empathy.
Empathy. Oh, the gift of empathy. Yes.
Which a lot of people think that isn't a real psychic gift, but it is.
It's the strongest psychic gift, actually.
It's a very good psychic gift, yes. Yeah. So the more open we are and the more we can feel other people's feelings, the more that we know what to do for other people.
Right.
So, but people need to learn how to use that. So that's one of the things I help people with. But there are so many gifts that are out there that people don't really understand as a gift. People have a sense of smell. That's one of the most, or the least talked about that I hear. But if you have a sense of smell where you're working on somebody and you smell the smell of sulfur, say, that's an actual gift
Yeah,
and you
it
may
is.
not know what to do with it, but if you bring that energy of sulfur into that person, that will tone down their, not really their attitude, but their personality a little bit. So say this is all homeopathic stuff, and I love it.
Right on. Go, girl. That's why I asked you. I'm like, take it. Do it. Go.
So if you are working on a person and you feel like they've just become frustrated with the entire world and can't stand to be in it, sulfur might be one of the things that you could use. And especially if you smell that smell, that's a hint that that's one of the things that you could use. Another one would be, let me think. Well, another one would be arsenic, but I don't know that we really
let's
want
not
to
take
smell
arsenic
that.
into people. And arsenic doesn't really smell either.
It actually is a really useful homeopathic remedy, but
in tiny amounts.
Yes,
Don't
very
try this at
tiny.
home.
Actually, energetic homeopathic.
Yeah.
Yes. So, just thinking of a different. Oh well, for a past life, if somebody was a healer and saw visions of past lives, but didn't really understand what was going on, which is how actually I started in past lives. I did take a class, but I was already doing past life work, and I discovered that after taking the class. So what?
Good times.
Yes.
Good times. All right.
So I would know that there were things sticking out of people, but I didn't know energetically, but I didn't know what to do with those.
Right.
So, and I don't know if that was a seeing or a knowing or, whatever
what it
sense
was.
that was, but and however it came in, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But I did learn exactly what to do with those things and how to remove them and how to move on with life and help my clients move on with life.
So you would say that if you have the gift of empathy, oftentimes with that can come smells, can come emotions.
Absolutely.
If you've got that seer gift or the clair gifts, the clairsentient gifts, there's also, you can also have those moments of understanding energies to be able to identify them and bring them through energetically to people.
Yes.
When you're doing your work that's sound-based, I know you've had a lot of people all up and down the American South, the East Coast, that have wanted you to teach them how to do what you do.
Yes.
And with all the people out there listening, and many of them are sensitives and healers and practitioners, some work with bowls, some work with tuning forks, some work with their voice. Is this something you can teach people? Or is this just you either can do it or you can't?
Well, I think it's something I can teach people at least the way I do it. When I'm teaching, most of the time it's about opening up other people's gifts and exactly how they do things. So can I teach them exactly how I do this? Probably not, because a lot of times I don't even know everything that's happening while I'm working on it. But I can teach them a lot about how to move energy. I can teach them about using your intent to move energy with your voice.
Which is awesome.
Yes. And I think that most musicians do that already. They just don't realize that they can do a whole lot more with it than they're doing currently. So,
well, and that's the thing, because what I'm noticing in this time frame is we have so many people whose gifts and talents are being opened up and ignited.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
I read for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a year. And the amount of empaths that I'm seeing coming forward and the amount of incredible healing gifts that are coming forward with these people. It's almost embarrassing. Sometimes I feel like I'm giving the same angelic translation over and over and over, because these people are coming forward whose gifts and talents are greatly needed in the world. And I think that's in response to Mother Gaia crying out and saying, hey, you weirdos, I need some help here.
Yes. The poor woman.
I know. Poor Mother Gaia.
Poor Earth, yes. And that's part of the things one of the things that I do while I'm traveling. I drive everywhere I go so that I can stop and connect with the Earth at different places.
Right.
And heal. Heal both the Earth and me and anyone,
Around.
I mean, not...
It's like secondhand smoke. Oh, got a healing from Marcia Reichert. How'd you do that? I don't know. I was in like in a 50-mile proximity. I don't know what happened. It was awesome. It just happened.
I don't mean to sound like I'm the be-all, end-all or anything like that. I just know that I've been thanked in different channelings from Gaia for healing her in different places and bringing the energy all back together and connecting that wonderful grid line we have all over the earth. So,
and the grid line is really, like, I describe that grid line as a set of veins and nerves. That just as our veins flow blood all over our bodies, our ley lines, all of those grid lines, which can be different. The ley lines and grid lines can be different. They're like the bones, not the bones really. The earth is the bones. They are the veins and they are the nerves.
I would call it the nervous system. Yeah,
nervous system.
Right. Yeah, I think she's built a lot like us. You know, she has a core and a center that might be transforming on the inside, and it might be transforming on the outside too, on her skin, on her crest. And then there's an energetic field all the way around her.
Yeah,
and
big time.
Whatever is on the outside is affecting what's on the inside. And
just like
versa.
people. Just like people.
Exactly.
So I am fascinated, of course, as you know, a lot of my work, as you know, right? A lot of my work lies in what populates the earth.
Yes.
Because we as beings are a vast, fascinating cacophony of life. Yes. And we as human beings are hybrids of really, if you have a frontal cortex, I say this all the time, you can wave at your off-world relatives and say, thank you for passing forward that genome that I now have a frontal cortex that we adopted from our off-world relatives.
Right.
There were plenty of hominins that were running around the earth back in the day. And those hominins had no frontal cortex, very little. They operated out of a connected Bluetooth sense of empathy. The Neanderthals, a lot of those tribes were very, very empathic beings.
Oh, yes.
So you take this frontal conquest cortex, which we now have, and you meld that with the genetics of an empathic species, and you get human beings. And our off-world friends weren't the only ones that went around mixing and matching with people. We had our wonderful elementals that were going around mixing and matching. And for those of you that don't know what elementals are, you know, in today's culture, we have all these cheesy names for them. We call them Faeries or gnomes or elves or whatever. These are the Fae, and they come through portals, that dimensional portals, they still exist, that really, if you follow the longitudinal line, if you can go to England, Ireland, Scotland, and even up some by Norway, there are tons of elementals up in the Norway region. And longitudinally, if you draw some lines all the way to the earth, and then if you count back equidistant from the equator in the southern hemisphere, you're going to get parts of those elementals that are in Australia. They're in the Fiji Islands. They're down there in New Zealand. So the way that those portals open up on the earth have a lot to do with the proximity to the poles, the proximity to the equator. And so why I'm building this up is because a lot of people walking around on this earth have elemental genome in them.
Yep.
Part of what we have in our genes, gang, is off-world genome. We have elemental genome. And as somebody who tracks energy signatures like a bloodhound, I can feel that vibration in people. And Marcia, you have a ton of elemental genome in you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you do. I mean, you look like a fairy just looking at you, man. I mean, you got fairy eyeballs, you know. And we think of these creatures as being these fanciful little flabby fairies. However, we think of these creatures as being these fanciful little flappy fairies. However, that is not the character of an elemental. And I want to talk about elementals.
Okay.
So, fantastic.
Not my favorite subject at all.
No, I can tell. You weren't smiling. You weren't beaming like Mrs. Santa Claus over here. Like, what else?
Hey, she's one of us.
I know. Right? So tell folks what the heck this is, because there's a lot of people that think this is pure horse pucky. A lot of people, even, you know, we might even have some listeners of this show going, oh my God, yes, Danielle, we're part alien and now we're part fairy. Seriously, how much vodka did you drink before this show?
We didn't this time.
I know, right? We're just straight up. We're being straight
Not
up
even
with people.
tequila.
Not even nothing. Not even water. What were we doing?
I know, really.
That's weird. So we're coming to you completely sober, as always, as every week, but just making sure that I put that out there, talking about people having Fae genome. So Marcia, take it away.
Oh, you're going to hand it off to me?
Heck
Oh,
yeah, I'm
that's
gonna
awesome.
hand it off to you. Go, girl.
You know, apparently I am one of the few people that really knows a whole lot about fairies, other than you. You know,
I'm a freak, so let's hear from you for a while.
And the one that we thought was leading us in that isn't here anymore. So anyway,
yes.
Faeries. Oh, I love them. And I run into them all over the country. You know, there's a lot of people that will say that they don't believe in them, but once I start singing, then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute. I see butterflies everywhere I go, or I see dragonflies everywhere I go, and I can call them in. And does that have anything to do with being a fairy? Well, yes, it does. I love that.
Right? And I love this because, you know, it is a sign of our times, Marcia, that we are finally getting to talk about the fact that the human beings are mutts of the universe.
Yes.
We are, just as we are a melting pot in America, the Earth is a melting pot for many galaxies, many, many, many galaxies.
Many different forms of DNA, yes.
And many different dimensions.
Yes.
So the Fae, people think that fairies are they have this idea that they're these sweet, kind little things. That's never been my experience running into Fae. They stare me down like I have dog poo all over my face. I mean, they just look at me
funny.
like, and they actually like me.
Yes.
So
yes. But if they stare right through you and you don't look away, they will probably respect you more. You know?
Exactly. So how can you, what are some signs that a person might have more elemental genome in them? And now, keep in mind, gang, when I'm talking about this, we're mixes of a lot of things. So for instance, I personally am part Italian. I'm part Scot. I'm part Welsh. I'm part Cherokee. I have a lot of different nationalities as a human being that are mixed in with my genome. So when we're talking about this, you can have a little more of a concentration of off-worlder or just indigenous hominin to the earth or Fae or fairies. So Marcia, how do people identify if they may have some of this Fae genome? What are some telltale signs?
Well, I would say some of them would be how you look and some of your talents. You know, if you look like a fairy, if you look like the picture that the people put in books, like Froud, if you look like the classic fairy that they put on the internet, you know, say, then that's probably a hint that you are part Fae. But that is not a true thing that fairies are happy all the time. I mean, generally yes, but just like every other species, there are dark and there are light, and it's on a spectrum. Nothing's good, nothing's bad, but the dark fairies have their own job to take care of, and they do it very efficiently and very well, and without a whole lot of feeling behind it.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
One of the creatures that I'm I would say a changeling. So one of the creatures that I change into is called Pain Eater. Oh my goodness. So its job. It doesn't even really look like a he or a she, but it's very dark creature. Can't really tell. It's very ugly. Really.
Well, it is pain. How pretty can that be?
Right.
I mean, that's a little raw, man.
I see myself with really dark hair and dreadlocks. It's just gnarly and nasty. But when I turn into that creature, I can eat people's pain, and it doesn't affect me as my human self at all. It just gets run through the system. So that's one very efficient thing to use, but not everybody can do that. But if you identify with being a fairy, then I would say that you are a fairy and you should look more into that. And one of the things that Danielle and I do is talk about your fairy genome and what you can do with that.
That's true. And the fairy genome is fun. It's fun because it's fun to talk about with people because, first of all, people are so busy looking at you like, oh, okay, all right, you really had me walking the line with this, we're all part off-worlder, and now you're talking about fairies. Now you have lost me completely, sister. You have gone into the cray-cray land. The fact of the matter is, there are many, just as there are many different types of angelic life that do different jobs. Not all angels deal with people.
Right.
Not all angels do. That's a specialty with a certain type of angel. There's a lot of angels that deal with nature, other dimensions, other beings, the Fae. They have their own jobs. So when I run into people with the Fae genome, it's fascinating because you can break it down. There were basically there used to be 13 main houses in the Fae realm, and now there's about 12, and very few of those are even remaining. They've been hunted down, and some of them have even given up some of their rights and claims. Right. However, we see these hybridized Hollywood versions of a tree fairy or a rock fairy or an earth gnome or whatever. And really, they're not that far off. They're not that far off.
Yeah, exactly. They aren't exactly what I see or experience, but one of my favorite stories is how I found my joy guide. Can I tell that story?
Please. Please. I want to hear about the joy guide.
Two of my favorite people in Florida had me do meditation to find your joy guide. And I didn't realize that everybody was supposed to have a joy guide. And I thought, well, maybe I don't have one because I'm just joy.
Right.
But I did the meditation anyway, and in pops, and I mean pop, like the little explosion that you would think of with if Merlin just waved his wand and something popped in. In pops this little leprechaun, and he's the classic leprechaun. He's got the red hair and the red beard and a pipe hanging out of his mouth, and the derby hat, and the 4-leaf clover.
So he looks like the guy on Lucky Charms.
He does look like the Lucky Charms leprechaun, yes. That is not how I see leprechauns. Yes, they have red hair and red beard, but and kind of a funny nose. But anyway, they that's not how I see him. So I'm looking at him going, that's not how I experience you most of the time. And I was kind of laughing a little bit, inside, and poof, he popped into this little gnome-looking creature, and he's got the classic white pants and the classic red shirt and the big white beard hanging down, and he's only, he's almost as wide as he is tall, which is not how I see gnomes either, but...
But that's what he's looking like. This guy, your joy guide, is looking like this.
Exactly. So I started giggling a little bit, and that made me laugh a little bit. But then he popped into this ball-looking thing, and it's this ball, and he grinned. Same eyes all the way through, by the way.
Yeah.
Always the same eyes. But he grinned this great big grin, and he's right in my face. And this grin has the most gnarly teeth ever. And it would scare the hell out of most people. And I just busted out laughing because I'm like, oh my God, it's a fairy changeling. My God, joy guide is a fairy changeling too. So
your joy guide.
I just about died laughing then.
Well, and you know what? And I love this because what my experience with the Fae, we have a lot of them up in the Pryor Mountains here in Montana. They call them the little people.
Yes.
They were documented by Lewis and Clark out here. These little 18-inch tall beings with pointy teeth and round head, hairless bodies, kind of gray skin, great big wide mouths, wide set eyes that were yellow. And they could down an elk and then carry that and just drag that whole elk. They're incredibly strong, these beings.
Sounds like a gnome, doesn't it?
It kind of sounds like a gnome, right? And so the little people are up, especially in the Bighorn Canyon area up here in Montana. And we go up there every summer. And especially there's one particular canyon that I'm not going to mention the name of. But we go back into that canyon. And those little people, if you don't leave them sweets, they will harsh you up all night. They throw rocks at your boat. They swim up underneath and they scratch your boat. And they jump on it and they move you around. They have these creepy flutes that they play in the canyon in the middle of the night. I mean, this is all documented stuff. It's not just me.
Right.
This is generations of people who've been up to the Bighorns.
Yes, absolutely. And I find that fun. But I'm weird like that because I can interact with them very well. And I think it's just hilarious. I've got all kinds of stories about that.
Well, and you've got a lot of, but here's the thing for our listeners, you've got a ton of the elemental genome.
Yes.
So you think that's hysterical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll tell you, here's the thing. Elementals are crispy, in my opinion. They're crispy. They're intolerant. They get really upset with people. They want to kind of harsh you up, and if you don't freak out or soil yourself, then they've got some respect for you. They're just harsh. And so when you think about, Tinkerbell and these lovely little beings. No, man. I mean, we're talking gnarly beings here. They're gnarly.
Yeah,
and so,
a little.
For those of us with not so much elemental genome or hardly any, I'm just like, wow. However, I've got great respect for the elemental kingdom.
Yes.
Because the reason they're crispy and gnarly is to keep things in balance.
Yes.
And
they have to do their jobs. Absolutely.
And what are their jobs?
Taking care of the earth for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, they take care of us as humans a little bit too, some of them. But
if they
most
can
of them,
stomach it.
Yeah. Which is getting a little hard to do.
Yeah.
However.
Yes, that's true.
They take care of the plants. They take care of the earth. And their job has been kind of screwed with, for lack of a better word, because of everything that the humans are doing to the planet. You know, we're fracking the earth and you know, drilling for oil in places that we really we shouldn't be messing with the whole system down there. And so they're busy trying to keep everything together, and we're busy trying to take it apart.
And I've noticed too, with that element, with the fracking, with the issues that we have that are all, it's very destructive. Wherever we have a lot of destructive earth action, we find a lot of elemental activity. I've personally gotten called in, I know you have too, to cleanse houses, some we've done together.
Yes.
To get in to remove negative energies from homes. And people are positive they have a demon.
Right.
Because some plate went flying or a cabinet door slammed or they saw this hulking black thing at the end of the hallway. And elementals feel very different than demonic life.
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
You go in and why don't you bring forward, as you are the guest, ways that people can tell if they've got an elemental occupation in their home as opposed to a demon or a poltergeist?
Very good question. And sometimes it takes me a bit to figure it out. But I have seen, even on TV, I've watched these paranormal shows and realized that they had the actual elemental things going on rather than demons. And most people can't figure out the difference. It's really sometimes pretty difficult. I can feel the difference because I'm elemental. So if you think you're elemental, feel into it and see if you somehow have annoyed, or somewhere along the line, somebody has annoyed the earth diva that is in charge of the land that your house is on, or the house, the diva that is in the house. Each house has a spirit. And sometimes it becomes the house, or, you know, the house absorbs the spirit. But the way to tell the difference, I would say, is if it's mischievous and you're taking it wrong, according to an elemental, hard. And it does get difficult. It gets hard
because people, demonic, you guys, from my experience, when you encounter a demon, first of all, they don't make their presence known very readily. Demons are like sociopathic pack predators, and they kind of hide, and like a lion in the grass, and they kind of watch everybody, and they want to see who the weak ones are, and they want to see who they can pick off. And really, it's not like chaotic darkness is after us specifically anyway. It's eating the pain out of the ethers. However, they do hang and study people. Elementals are equal opportunity irritators. They absolutely are. They are. I have gone into homes and people are like, oh my God, I got a demon in my basement. And I'm like, oh, you got an elemental because you just dug a pool in the backyard. You covered your entire yard in concrete. You haven't planted one tree, one flower, nothing to give back to the earth. And so if you have a demonic issue, there is a terrible oppression that comes over it. Like you can cut the ethers with a knife. It's so heavy that you're just not sure what to do with it. There is an eeriness to elementals. Like you feel like your skin's kind of crawling and you feel like somebody's watching you, and the ethers can feel clammy, but it doesn't feel that super dready, heavy, low vibration, because demons, in order for demons to be here, they've got to slow. They're coming in on a much lower bandwidth. Elementals are in the same bandwidth, even the dark ones, with Mother Earth. So they're not dragging the ethers down. You can get some pretty dark ones that are pretty close,
and they can look a lot the same too. You know,
by what people think they look like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd even say dark elementals look more like a human being's idea of a demon than an actual demon looks like a human.
I would say that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I have a kind of a funny story about.
Oh, do tell.
So my friend in Florida, I won't mention any names.
My friend,
He called me over and a couple other people over to clear his house, and we cleared his house. And he said, he had knocks on the wall and different things, and the biggest presence that we felt was his wife, who had passed away. Actually in the hospital, but when she went into the coma, she was in the house. So once he cleared the air with her, then things went back to normal until they didn't.
and that's usually how it goes with elemental occupations.
Yes. So, but he didn't realize that that's what he had in the house. He thought there was something still haunting his house. So I went back and I talked to him about exactly what was going on. And he still had knocks on the wall. And he said, Marcia, and he's this great big guy, and he said, Marcia, I opened the door and I went outside my house. And he said, I swear to you, there was this thing that was like 8 feet tall and it was big and huge and it was so scary. And I laughed and laughed. And he goes, what the hell are you laughing about? And I said, dude, those are your people. Because he is elemental. In fact, if I were to identify anything that I could come close to that we actually talk about as an elemental, I would say that he's Sasquatch. So
yeah, and for those of you going, what? Okay, now I've got a few listeners going, okay, now I'm just not listening anymore. Now we have people who are part fairy, and now Bigfoot's a fairy.
Yes.
Actually, yes, Bigfoot is an elemental. Bigfoot travels through dimensional vortexes. They've actually got footage of Bigfoot just disappearing in the middle of a field, and it's walking along and just disappears because it goes through those vortex slip points.
Exactly.
Bigfoot walks underneath power lines. A lot of those elementals will focus on EMF margins and openings, in the hereafter. So, yeah, guys, you're learning a lot, right? Bigfoots are fairies. Who knew? Wow.
Yeah, and those people that go out and hunt them are never going to get one.
No, of course they're not. The closest they've come is the gentleman up in Alaska who had that cabin.
Yeah.
And the Bigfoot was coming out, and, they are elementals, yet they are partially, again, evolved with the life on Earth. So they do have some of that primate gene in them, which is very territorial, which elementals are territorial anyway, period, whatever.
Yes. Well, it was our Earth first.
Now, are we going to go there? Are we going to go there?
I had to say it.
Oh, yeah. It's true. It was. The
It
elementals were here first. You guys, look at the Bible. Look at the Christian Bible. Cain and Abel, supposedly, and Adam and Eve, supposedly the first people on the earth. Until Cain kills Abel and gets thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Read it in your Bible in Genesis, to go live with the people in the mountains. So who the heck were those? The Bigfoots. He's up there with the Bigfoots. But yeah, it's true. This guy up there in Alaska puts a board in front of his door because this being is pushing his cabin. He's beating on it. He's like an ape would.
Right. Yeah.
Takes a board and puts screws up through the board so they're sticking up because this being was coming and beating on the door, and the Bigfoot came and walked on the screws and screamed and yelled and tore his feet off of them, and it actually tore out flesh and hair.
Of course it did, and it hurts.
I'm sure it was terrible. So they sent that flesh and hair in to get it identified, and they found a strand of primate and then a whole bunch of stuff. They had no clue what it was.
Good, because they shouldn't.
How do you feel, Marcia? Because we're just going clear candid here. This is a candid interview, right? We're just blowing it wide open. And how do you feel about people who want to get scientifically documented DNA proof about things like elementals or the little people? Do you think that's a great idea so we can teach people what's actually there? Or do you think it's a harmful idea because people will hunt them? And what do you think about it?
Well, people might try to hunt them, but I don't think they can do a whole lot of damage. I mean, yes, that Bigfoot did have some foot damage. And he hurts, and I'm sorry, honey. But but can they actually hunt them? I really don't think so. They can pop in and out of come on, what's the word?
Vortex dimensions, yeah.
Yes, just like I can. Danielle's seen me do 5 dimensions at a time. I love it.
It's weird. It's weird when you do that. So we're having conversations and she's looking at me, and then it's like watching Dr. Manhattan just divide into all these different dimensions at one time. And she's nodding her head going, uh-huh, uh-huh. I'm like, are you even listening to me? She's like, yes, I'm just checking on this and that. But that's part of the elemental genome.
Yes.
So if you're listening and you're like, okay, well, I'd love to believe this is all horsepucky, except for the fact that I too can be actively beyond lucidly daydreaming in many places at one time. I too feel the earth as if it's an appendage, and when the earth hurts, I sob because I can't stand it. I too go out into the woods and feel like, why am I even living in the city? All I want to do is take my clothes off and roll in the pine needles. I mean, we want to say these are the attributes from evolving on a planet and being a primate. Yet, at this point, this far down the evolutionary scale, these are the attributes of that elemental genome making itself present. Yeah, people like to be in the outdoors. People like to hang out. But there's if you're that one person who likes to take it a little further and you swear to God there's a fairy ring in your backyard and you swear to God the flowers are talking to you, they probably are.
Yes,
it's
they
okay.
are. So listen.
You must listen.
Yes, we should listen. We should listen more all the time.
Yeah.
You know. I want to tell you another story. When I was doing a healing on a gal, we were sitting outside at a hotel. I can't remember exactly where I was because I travel so much.
You do. You're traveling constantly.
That might have been South Carolina, I think. So anyway, she was sitting getting a healing from me. And then when she opened her eyes when I was done, she said, "My God, your wings." And I said, "Oh, cool, you can see my wings." And she said, she was flashing her eyes so fast. And she said, "They're just moving so fast, I can't even watch them. And the more you work, the more they move." That is my connection to the spirit realm. So whether I was tapping into Faerie right then, or the ethers, the come on, I can't talk tonight.
That's okay. Isn't it great?
I stick you on
realm. The angelic realm. Oh, don't you love it when you can't talk and you're on this radio and somebody's like, "Go be smart."
All right.
No, I can't. I don't know what's happening. So
obviously this isn't scripted, people.
Well, this is how you know it's live. So, I mean, honestly, so you're talking about, when you talk about wings, explain to people what you're talking about, because it's not like your human body sprouted a pair of wings,
right?
So tell folks what you mean.
So they are energetic wings, but they can make your body hurt. And so if you have pain on either side of your spine that's a little bit wider than the normal pain, which would be right by your spine, then you might be holding your wings too tight. So let them out, flutter them.
And we're talking about the ethereal body, people.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like the chakral points of the body are rivets that actually stick the flesh into the spirit into the flesh, then there can be other chakral layers. And for many who have this elemental genome, they do experience what they call wings. Or it's interesting, angels don't actually have wings, gang. They don't. They have this blinding light that comes out their back on either side, and it's this wash of light, and it looks like wings. But angels aren't flapping through the universe. They're temporal beings. They just do what they do. However, if they are to appear in front of you, you've got this huge blinding white. It's almost like a T-square looking thing, and that's going to look like wings. They can present themselves as wings. But we're talking about a spiritual or astral body with that. Right. So, and it's interesting, this is the other thing people don't know about you, Marcia, and I want to throw this in there because this is my favorite part. I've been saving this for last, is Marcia also has many, many, many certifications. And medical certifications and whatnot. So tell people on a physical realm what you've been certified in. I think this is fascinating.
If I can remember them all.
I know there's a lot of them.
Well, I went from an LMT to an LMT.
Which is a licensed massage therapist.
Right.
For those who don't know the acronym.
But before, I was a licensed medical transcriptionist. So, and I've taught transcription as well as
Massage. You've also taught.
I have taught
incredible
massage and all
massage.
different kinds of massage. So Swedish massage. My background is actually scientific-based massage, so more of a medical-based massage and Western medicine. Then I became certified in different forms of Eastern medicine as well. I've got the national, or did have actually, I didn't keep up on my credits, but National Certification Board of Massage Therapy and Bodywork. And so that's the big test.
Is it the big test? Yes, the big test.
So that includes all the Chinese medicine and several other modalities. I'm certified in polarity therapy, in some craniosacral. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a reflexologist. Let me think.
I know. See, this is just hysterical. Certified tonal healer.
Well,
So,
yeah, because I came up with that one.
That was great.
Well, I came up with a version of tonal healing where I use actual songs rather than just tones.
Yeah.
So that's a lot different from what other people use.
Well, the reason I brought this up is because there is a misinterpretation, I find, a lot in the metaphysical field, that if you talk about fairies or you talk about ETs or whatever, that you're so woo-woo out there metaphysically that there's no way in heck that you could ever actually be a down-to-earth person. And I waited till the end to drop these credits for you, because if our listeners are still sticking with us and they haven't decided that we lied about the vodka and that we actually have been drinking it the whole time, which clearly we have not, I wanted to let people know that you are a very diverse person.
Yes.
And you're a Capricorn, you are a hard worker, you are somebody who has, again, gone through major testing. You chose not to keep up on some of those certifications because you weren't using them as much in your work.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yet,
I'm still certified in Montana, though, and I can practice in Wyoming for massage therapy. And what's NMT?
the what?
Neuromuscular therapy. That's the other certification.
Good
the
Lord.
other big one that I have. So neuromuscular therapy is very deep work on specific muscles.
And I just love this because she's like, oh, yeah, neuromuscular therapy is my other certification. And neuromuscular, that has to do with our brain, hello, and how that runs. And so I waited till the end to let people know of the vast set of knowledge you have. Because, well, you're welcome. Because we choose how we focus our gifts and talents. People don't know about me. I have a huge sound science background.
Yes.
You know, I have a huge sound science background and sound physics background. I have a huge science background. And people would look at me and be like, shut up. Weren't you that chick that fronted Pope Jane in the 90s? What is your deal? And you're a psychic now or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
Look at everything we can do. Woo!
So, I think it's just in this feminine time frame, it's important that we embrace the fullness of who we are.
Oh, yes.
By the way, Marcia can also build a Harley Davidson. She can build
Yes,
a Harley.
I can.
She can build a Harley. And I actually took her drill. She borrowed me some tools. She loaned me some tools, and I was doing some work on my house, and I broke my her drill bit, and I freaked out. And she goes, oh, my God, I'm surprised it lasted you that long.
Because she was using the wrong one.
I was, but it worked. I had holes in the wall.
She had holes in the wall, but I'm not really sure how she did it. So I don't know if she was like spraying water at the same time too, but she was drilling through cement with a good old wood drill.
Darn it. That is spiritual physics right there. I didn't know what I was doing. It's like a bee can fly and its wings are small. It doesn't know it should fall out of the sky. I'm like, Marcia gave me a drill. Whee! Here I go. And
so now we have her set up with a hammer drill and
it works better.
It works. The correct bits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Marcia.
You're welcome.
I'm a lame lesbian in this regard.
Thanks, Dad.
I am really. I'm not fully to my functioning tool lesbian. I need
that's
help.
Hilarious.
It's true. My grandpa was a carpenter, and you'd think I'd be better. But anyway, yes, I'm making a funny, everybody. So,
well, that's okay. I might not be as feminine as most men want me to be.
That's okay.
That's
it's the
my
feminine
issue.
What? Shut up. You have blonde hair down to your keister. What are you talking about? Lord. I mean, and isn't it funny? Like, and obviously, Marcia and I are very dear friends, so we're just joking around over here. But this is part of what I want to share with you guys on this podcast is not just knowledge, but this is your tribe of people. And maybe
Yes.
I might even be a little weird for your tribe, or Marcia might be just perfect for your tribe. But if you're listening to this, all of us are out there with such deep depths of ability. And, we want to pigeonhole people, and we want to polarize, and we want to say, oh, that fairy lady who sings, which I'm going to have you sing in just a second here, Marcia. The fairy lady who sings, oh, that's some flaky bakey person who's just flitting about, she's flitting about because she's highly in demand up and down the East Coast and in the South, but she's flitting. And I think it's important that all of us own your weird. Own your brilliance.
Absolutely. Yes.
Own your diversity in yourself.
Yeah. And that's what I encourage people to do all the time. They talk about wanting to go take this class or this class. And I try to tell you, please don't put yourself in a box. Because if you're in a box, you're not using all your gifts and talents.
Right.
And that's what I agreed when I agreed with God that I was going to do everything in my power to do healing work. That included singing, that included dancing, that a whole lot of different talents, bartending.
You're a good bartender, by the way.
I'm a good bartender, but years of practice. But
again, embracing the diversity of who we are.
Yeah.
It's very important. We're not one-trick ponies. There's no way we're a one-trick pony. So speaking of that, I got a treat for you. If everybody could just settle in and just relax. And Marcia, we're coming right up on the end of our hour. But I'm thinking, can you gift us with a song?
Sure.
And everybody listening, just kind of let it sink in.
Okay. Once upon a day, I was sighing for you, tasting only sweet, drinking memories of you. Your hand touches my cheek as you whisper softly, don't forget to breathe. Our love will be redeemed. And when you take my hand, you'll know exactly where I am. A toast to starry night, seeking comfort divine, celebrating I swim in circles in light, and I look to the sea and hear you calling softly, don't forget to breathe. Our love will be redeemed. And when you take my hand, you'll know exactly where I am. I hear you calling to me, see you but you can't see me. We never said our goodbyes, so dark and lonely your eyes. You'll always be in my heart, there is no death do us part. And don't forget to breathe. Our love will be redeemed. And when you take my hand, you'll know exactly where I am. You'll know exactly where I am. You'll know exactly where I am.
Oh, that is gorgeous. Thank you. I'm over here drooling. I'm like, oh, wow, the vibration in my studio is so awesome right now. And okay, so I have to give you back to the world, Marcia. You belong to the world. We love it when you were back home in Montana. And I was hilarious. Marcia and I figured out that we were in the same musical in high school together.
Yeah.
And I was Marion Peru. I was the blonde lead in The Music Man. And Marcia was playing
The tuba. You hear that in my voice, too?
the tuba. It was just the funniest thing. So before I let you go here, love, I want to thank you so much for the work that you do in the world.
Thank you.
And you are, now one more time, where's your next stop? Where are you going after you leave Billings?
Nashville, Tennessee.
And then to?
And then I am then to Sarasota, actually, for a little bit.
Right.
And then stopping in Melrose for a little bit, and then Myrtle Beach, and then Frederick, Maryland, and then Pittsburgh, and then I am back here in Montana for a month. So.
Fantastic. Well, we'll catch you for the summer. We'll catch you when it warms up, finally.
Well, at least spring. I don't know where I'm going from there.
Well, that's
all
right.
I have planned, and you know me. That's all I can do.
We're not getting out any farther than that.
That's right.
Everybody, also, you can find Marcia's album on iTunes. She has a Celtic vocal healing album produced by yours truly. It was so much fun to produce that album for you.
Yes, and it was fantastic to record with you, too.
It was so
just
fun.
Amazing.
Oh, my God. And the way that I mixed the album, I captured a lot of the harmonics that when you're actually sitting in front of Marcia, you actually hear and feel. So it's a healing album. You can find it, Marcia, Colver, Reichert. And the album is House of Eora. And that is the Celtic fairy house that you're associated with.
Yes.
The House of
Yes,
Eora.
yes.
So check that out on iTunes, you guys. It's wonderful, wonderful healing music through the Celtic tradition. And also, where can they find you online? Are you going to be posting on Facebook where you're going to be in case people want to get treatments or appointments in different places?
Yes.
And what's your Facebook?
Be. Yes, my Facebook page is Marcia Colver Reichert, and it's Marcia.
Right, Marcia.
And then Colver is Colver, Reichert is Reichert. And if you can't find me from there, you're probably friends with Danielle on Facebook. You can stalk me through her page.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But your website also.
I also have Channeling Divine.
ChannelingDivine.com.
On both Facebook and pretty much everything else, as well as ChannelingDivine.com, right.
Because if you're going to be in Nashville and you want to get a treatment from Marcia, or you're going to be in any of these Maryland or any of these different cities, then hey, hit her up. And so they can reach you through your Facebook page.
Yes, absolutely.
At Channeling Divine. Okay, that's an easy one to remember for people. Yeah.
I'm also channelingdivine@gmail.com. So as long as you can remember Channeling Divine, and Divine is Divine.
Yeah, you're not trying to find any water in the ground. People,
no, right.
So. Channeling Divine. So yes, you can catch her on iTunes. You can catch her on Facebook at Channeling Divine or Marcia Colver Reichert or at channelingdivine.com.
Yes. Thank you, Danielle. This has been so much fun. I always love to be in the studio with you.
Thank you. I love it when you're here. And it's, and I'm trying to keep it informational for our listeners, right?
Absolutely.
And not just to have this hilarious good old day meltdown with you about, remember that time we went into that house? It was totally haunted with this thing in it. Oh. But thank you so much, Marcia, for taking time out of your incredible travel schedule to come on inPsight Radio. And everybody who's listening, you are going to be loving the next show that we have coming up. I'm going to be getting very, very heavily into angelic life. What are angels? How do they work? What's fallacies about angels? What's true about angels? And also getting into some interesting issues around what some people call shadow government, or they also call the deep state, or all kinds of different things. We're going to be really getting into some of that and exploring, is this real? Is it not real? Do we need to be freaked out? You never need to be freaked out, people. Light is in charge, or love is in charge, whatever. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning into inPsight Radio. Thank you, Marcia, for being here.
Thank you, Danielle.
And We will see you guys next week.